Y mina 35 na las Laturanguahan is back from recess. Before we left, colleagues, for lunch recess, Senator Therese Chalayi was speaking on the amendment to the San Augustine Amendment. So, Senator Therese, you still had the floor.
All right. I tried to clarify this with legal and with the sponsor of the original amendment. And so the original amendment is to remove the words "the top two insurance companies," meaning that the governor is authorized to enter contracts with the top two insurance companies. And so the original amendment by my colleague would have been to remove those words, "the top two," and just that, right? Yes, I think just that, to remove the words. Right?
That's correct,
The
Madam
word,
Speaker.
yeah, okay. And then, all right. And so that part, the removal of the words, I am in full support. Because, you know, for us to mandate two companies seems a blatant attempt to benefit a particular company, and it's very thinly disguised with the word, you know, this bill with the word choice, which in effect takes away the choice of the governor to go with a more cost-effective contract or company or proposal. And really, it's going to be for, it would have really tied the governor's hands and mandated that, you know, we take two companies and we will contract with them, even if they are $1 million apart, which my understanding from Mr. Byrne is, you know, they were approximately $11 million apart last year, or the exclusive versus non-exclusive was $11 million apart. But, so the impact is great. So I'm glad for the removal of the words "the top two." I think, though, so I put in an amendment, and I'm just a little bit confused whether this is the correct part to put it in now. So,
But Senator Therese, if I may, we already have an amendment to the main amendment.
right, okay, so that's
So
why I've
we
been
need
trying
to
to clarify
dispose-
with the clerk, Madam Speaker, and yes.
So, colleagues,
I
if
will
you
wait.
can help me read along. The main amendment,
Was to add the word "all" and remove the words "the top two." Then he,
so the San Augustine amendment to his main amendment was to delete the word "all." I mean, yeah, let's-
Madam Speaker, if you want me to speak about the amendment that we have, I can state it for the record.
yes, Senator, just so that our colleagues can understand, because on the main amendment, you were including it, and then you further amended it to delete it. So please, go ahead.
That's correct, Madam Speaker. My colleagues, on lines 7 to 8, to amend the bill where it says, with one was already struck out, and then was to remove the top two or more. And then I initially, first amendment was to add the word all, then after legal consultation was to remove the word all, and it just totally removed the top two or more and the word all, and it's just insurance companies in general. So the opportunity exists for everybody to participate, and the governor will select which ones are the best qualified to meet the other parts of the bill. Because we need to, as we look at this bill, Madam Speaker and my colleagues, we have to look at the bill as a whole, not just parts. Because then that makes the sense of why the amendments exist. Thank you.
On that, Minority Leader, you're recognized. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
Speaker. So
Teresa
the
has the
clerk
floor.
has clarified for me that I cannot amend that amendment any further, so I will support that amendment to remove the words top two. As I said, I think that is really the most damaging part of this bill if it had gone forward in that, because it would have tied the governor's hands. It would have mandated an increase in cost for sure, unavoidable, according to Mr. Byrne, and the cost would have impacted not just the government and how we're going to allocate what little money we might have in FY22, or 21, sorry, but it's also, it very well may impact the subscribers, and of course it's going to impact taxpayers who are already impacted by many, many effects of this pandemic, and we are going to add this increase, guaranteed increase on top of that. So I very much support the amendment to remove those words, and I hope we can make further amendment to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Minority Leader on the amendment. Yes.
So, yeah, the amendment to the amendment, which is to remove all, correct?
Yes.
Okay, no, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there anyone wishing to speak on that? Is there any objections? Seeing none, motion carries. Senator Joseph Augustine, you still have the floor on the amendment as amended.
On the same issue?
No,
No, on,
as
okay.
amended.
Oh, as amended. I have 4 other amendments, but I'd like to yield to the Vice Speaker, who has an amendment that would assist me in
No,
leading.
Senator Joe, so this amendment
Is-
as amended,
It's close.
so I'm going to call for the motion if you
Please
don't
do.
wish to close.
Thank you.
If no one else wishes to speak on the amendment as amended, hearing no objection, motion carries. Senator San Augustine, you still have the floor on another amendment.
Madam Speaker, I have 4 other amendments, but
Yes.
I will pause on that amendments until,
I will reserve the rest
Thank
of
you.
your time and yield to Vice Speaker. You are recognized on the main motion.
Sujas Masi, Madam Speaker. The amendment, colleagues, in the Google Drive, the file name is FA255 TCN L12P3, line 12, page 3. And the amendment is to read, "This act shall be effective upon enactment," well, it's crossed out, and we're including the words "on January 1st, 2021." And the reason for that, Madam Speaker, is we already understand that Mr. Burns said that we are already going through this RFP process. And we are also, there's also been previous amendments attempted to have been made that will impact other areas of this bill because the process is already ongoing. And so, not only that, it's to understand really the impacts and require, hopefully forward that we can also require some data collection on addressing customer service and also addressing the impacts fiscally that the previous measure has has done. And so it's just to enact this for the next fiscal year after the negotiations take place for this year, January 1st, 2021.
Cesar Masi, Vice Speaker. Anyone else on this amendment? Senator Joseph Augustine on the Vice Speaker amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My colleagues, Bill 255-35 is a monumental step towards providing our government of Guam employees with the ability to choose their health insurance providers. I understand that many of our employees, retirees, and their dependents rely on having the security of health insurance for when illness strikes. But we really must be cautious in the effective date we decide on. The Department of Administration benefit team, along with the health insurance negotiating team, has been working diligently since February to procure the FY21 health insurance. They sent out the request for proposal and received a response from an exclusive and for non-exclusive offers from 2 insurance companies. These companies made proposals for the opportunity to be the only health insurance provider and made adjustment to the exclusive proposal cost to reflect the non-exclusive. This measure will require the negotiating team to provide the governor with all proposals, regardless of the team's work, to score and negotiate for the most economic and beneficial proposal and cause an effective date of FY21. Had we established this law before the RFP for FY21 was issued, GovGuam would have had the opportunity to ensure a level playing field for all insurance companies who may have wanted to submit bids in response to the RFP. We did not allow that. This may cause other insurance companies who did not submit proposals to file a procurement protest or lawsuit in the future for not having been informed of these possibilities, and for this, we must be very careful. I suggest that my colleagues, that we all support the amendment presented by our colleague, that the effective date be January 1st, 2021. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're very welcome. Anyone else on the amendment? If not, anyone wishing to speak? Senator Teresa Lai, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I agree with, I'm in favor of changing the effective date to impact what I think they want to do is impact the negotiations for fiscal year FY22. January 21 may be too late. Yeah, because the Department of Administration, they begin their processes, early. They have to get lots of things in line before they start calling in the committee and all of that stuff. So I would just say the bill can become effective, but it should only affect going for the fiscal year 22 negotiations or 22 contract.
Thank you. Senator Teresa. Anyone else on the amendment? Senator Bisco-Lee, you are recognized.
Suzus Masi, Madam Speaker, and I'm grateful to the mover of this amendment for proffering it. I just had one question that came to mind is, there may be a concern, Madam Speaker, and maybe I'd like to proffer it as a question to the mover of this amendment or anybody on the floor who might be able to answer. But the concern with shifting from October 1st, 2020 to the first of the year in 2021 is, what if the procurement is still under protest or potentially under protest by October, November, and December? I'm just trying to make sure that we give ourselves some flexibility with that.
Thank you, Senator. I will yield to the author of the amendment or anyone who wishes to answer that. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the two speakers before me do bring up very valid points. We want to ensure that with this amendment, we want to ensure, one, that we don't interrupt the RFP process that has already begun. So we wanted to ensure that by making this bill enacted, giving the Department of Administration or the negotiation team time to prepare for fiscal year 2022. Secondly, the reason why it's on January 1st, 2021 is because we did have concerns about the impact of possible protests for this year's negotiation team. So that is why it's be enacted on 2021. So if any protest is aside, we can move forward with this possible legislation for fiscal year 2022. If it is not clear, Madam Speaker, enough in the amendment on this date of enactment, then perhaps I can ask legal just to make a technical correction to ensure that we cover those bases.
Thank you. Senator Lee?
Susan Masi, Madam Speaker, that helps to clarify. And so if, I'm not sure if an additional amendment is required, just to add the words to allow legal to make technical corrections to this measure.
Thank you. On that motion to have legal do the technical corrections, I'm going to go ahead and have the motion voted on first. Anyone else on the amendment? Sabina, Senator Sabina, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I just want some clarification, so a point of inquiry. So
State your question.
So as a technical correction to determine the wording to ensure that the bill is enacted prior to developing the solicitation, is that the technical correction that's going to be made?
Well, we're going to act on the amendment first. Vice Speaker Nelson, would you like to yield?
Madam Speaker, if I can just hear the point of inquiry one more time, forgive me.
State your question, Senator Perez, again, please.
So yeah, the question is whether the technical correction entails language that would ensure that the enactment occurs prior to development of solicitations.
Vice Speaker Nelson, would you like to yield?
The technical amendment would yield to the current enactment of, say again? Can the previous speaker say again? I'm sorry.
Senator Perez, you are specifically stating the amendment for the technical corrections hasn't been made. She was asking that the efforts show that the effective date of this act shall become effective January 1st, 2021. And there was, when the inquiry was said, there was a motion to further ask legal counsel to put in the technical corrections, but I have to entertain this amendment first.
Yeah, I guess to restate my inquiry, does a technical correction involve
Right, but
the date itself?
The technical correction, Madam Speaker, if I may,
Please,
yield to
please.
the inquiry. The technical correction will address the contracts after the fiscal year 2021 has been resolved. So, okay, so if it's causing some confusion,
Vice
I
Speaker
have,
Nelson, I'm
let
gonna
me,
give you-
can I just go into a quick recess? And I'll
Yes.
fix that in a couple minutes.
we are in a moment's recess. Emina 35 na legislatura in Guahan is back from recess. Vice Speaker Nelson, you were still yielding. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw my amendment. I have another amendment that would clear
I
the
will-
air in the inquiries
On
that
that,
were given.
thank you, Vice Speaker. On that motion, hearing no objections, seeing none, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Colleagues, this amendment is labeled in the drive as FA 255 TCN L12 P3 Gov Guam. And the amendment reads, this act shall become effective upon enactment and applied to Gov Guam health insurance contracts after fiscal year 2021.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On that amendment, anyone wishing to speak? Minority Leader, you are recognized. And then Teresa Lai.
Madam Speaker, you know when the health negotiation team is put in place, I think they get together around the month of February or March, or at least have those that are sitting on the panel at the time. And then the negotiations, like you said, began like June 20th, which is this month. That's when the negotiations begin. However, before that, I believe in May, when this plan came out in May, stating that all, if I'm not mistaken, all proposals are due by May 5th, then if this says contracts after FY 2021, it just doesn't seem to make sense, because they need to start working on this prior to that, because FY 2021 ends in October of 2021, right? So my question is, if this means that they can't start on the contract before the end of the fiscal year of FY 2021, they need to start ahead of time. That's why, January 1st seems to be the time in which to begin the enactment of this contract, because then by law, they're already working on the requirements. So I just don't understand how this would work here. And the other question that was brought up earlier in the event that the contract, this contract that we're in right now, if something should happen and there's a protest and it moves forward, then I think the logical thing to do is to enact this once everything is in place, but still that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not sure if legal put this together, but if I'm not mistaken, this would not happen until October 2021. So the question is, to the author, it will not apply until October of FY 2021, October 1st of October 2020. Is that's what we're looking at here? So it's kind of confusing for me, because they need to start. The negotiating team put together needs to start a whole 7-8 months prior to the implementation of a contract. So is this saying that they can't start working on this new contract until the end of FY 2021, which is in October 1st? That's my question.
Madam Speaker?
Would you like to yield to the question?
No, I just want to bring some clarification so everybody...
Point of information then?
Point of information. We need to understand that, number one, when they go to the negotiation process, it has to be presented for part of the budget that we have to pass by August. So by passing this date, it basically gives a heads up to the Department of Administration when they kick out the RFP. If they need another month or 2 months before that, they know that come January 2021, for fiscal year 2022,
Right.
they have to be in compliance with this law if this law passes. So January 2021 should be sufficient, but if they need it more, at least they know come January, don't mess up the RFP because this is the law. And I think that may answer it, but I understand where our colleagues are asking that question, but what date do they want? If they don't want January, then what do you want? November, December? Pick one. It doesn't matter. It's for FY 2022. That's really what this gist of this amendment is.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it, Madam Speaker, but however, you're looking at people protesting, and if the negotiation team has to send out an RFP that's prior to October 1st, 2021, they won't be able to do that because it's not a law yet. And you can come into issues of a protest. So how is the negotiation team going to adhere to a law that doesn't start until October 1st of 2021, put out an RFP in May of 2021, and all the requirements needed, but yet this law says October 1st, 2021. You're going to come into a bunch of protests here. That's why I think the First Amendment on January 1st, 2021, it's already law. The negotiation team realizes what's stipulated in this bill, and if there's any more amendments that come in there, they can adhere to the law, prepare for the RFP in May, and have it already up and running. So that's my only concern. And so I have to object to this, and maybe if legal can shed some light on here, but right now, I don't see the negotiating team having the ability to go through with this. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? Senator Therese Terlahi, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the amendment. I actually helped to draft it. So it's, as you can see on the amendment, it's very specifically says it will be applied, that these new rules for the negotiating committee and the government of Guam will be applied to health insurance contracts after FY 2021. The current negotiating committee is currently trying to finalize FY 2021 right now in advance of FY 21. So if they know that these are the rules that will apply after FY 2021, then that means to contracts beginning FY 2022 or thereafter. And so hopefully they will have the heads up so that they can prepare that RFP. I know that they send it out early, very early in the year, because they get the proposals back in March, early March. So they need to know way in advance. And so the earlier we give them, and I think that this will suffice unless we're told otherwise. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Therese. Anyone else on the amendment? If not, Vice Speaker Nelson, would you like to close?
Madam Speaker,
Minority Leader, do you have a point?
Madam Speaker, I think you recognized me already.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you. The amendment intent, so with the logic of saying that for whatever reason it's going to impact the implementation of another contract is not accurate. However, we can make it stronger. And if you give me just another minute's recess, we can make it stronger to address another concern by our body, because we want to make sure we're doing this right. And so let's work together to get it done. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a quick recess.
We will be in a moment's recess. Y mi 85 na legislatura en Guahan is back from recess. Vice Speaker Nelson, you still have the floor.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, change 3, I'd like to withdraw the current amendment and submit a new one. Motion to withdraw the amendment.
On that motion, without any objection, hearing none, motion carries.
Colleagues, the next amendment
Vice Speaker, you're
is
recognized.
labeled FA 255 TCN L12 P3, effective date. In this bill, it should read, "This act shall become effective upon enactment and shall not apply to solicitations, negotiations, or contract for Government of Guam Group Health Insurance for FY 2021.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Minority Leader, you're recognized on the amendment.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, for that. And as well, I had an opportunity to talk to legal on finding a way to ensure that, there is no future protests and moving forward. And this would allow the negotiation team to begin their solicitations, or at least, to provide the third-party fiduciary that they hire in order to move forward with the contract, solicitations, negotiations, or contracts for the Government of Guam Health Insurance. Guam for Group Health Insurance for FY 2021. So I stand in support of this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Anyone else on the amendment? If not, are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor on amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have another amendment. I'm just pulling it up on the drive so I can get the correct file name. The next amendment I would like to proffer, Madam Speaker, is file named FA 255 TCN, line 11, page 2.
Line what, Vice Speaker?
Line 11, page 2. And the amendment is to read, DOA Director shall assign staff to verify the refunds or no refunds reported by the carriers, and DOA shall verify the participating contract refunds reported by the carriers. And the purpose of this amendment, Madam Speaker, that if you look at the Office of Public Accountability Audit, report number 18-05, June 2018, it reads that the health insurance RFP for the upcoming FY 2019 contract year has requested for pooled rates, which will give GovGuam more flexibility as to how much it is able to contribute towards employees' premiums. GovGuam may consider shifting some of the cost to the employees while complying with the minimal requirement of law. For example, each PPO 1500 plan subscriber on an average have an additional monthly payment of at least $55.57. We recommend the DOA Director assign staff to verify the refunds / no refunds reported by the carriers. It goes on to further read, DOA did not verify the participating contract refunds reported by the carriers, which led to other financial impacts of $5 million. And so, Madam Speaker, this is just to ensure that the refunds are verified. If we're losing $5 million because we're not verifying the refunds or the no refunds of the insurance carriers, then this is to ensure that in the future we don't come across this situation again.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On the amendment, anyone wishing to speak? If not, are there any objections? Hearing or seeing none, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Senator Joe San Agustin.
Thank you. On the main motion, Senator San Agustin.
Madam Speaker, The amendment I am proffering is, let me get the right, it's on, beginning on line 4 of page 1. It's the amendment I first withdrew pending until further discussion with the,
Senator San Augustine,
okay.
we're on.
It's, basically, when you look at, the beginning on line 4, page 1 of the bill, it's to strike with the concurrence of the Speaker of Legislature in Guam Legislature, the Chief Justice, Supreme Court of Guam, whose consent may be withheld in their sole discretions, to strike that. And then further down, if the legislature or judicial branch of government elect to enter into a separate contract for their employees as authorized in 4301C, Imagalahi or Magahaga shall obtain the written concurrence of the branch electing to remain within the executive branch before March 1st of each year. That'll be struck out. And then further down on that same page, the Guam Legislature and the judiciary shall participate.
Just to be clear, Senator San Augustine, we're at FA 255J SSA L4P1.
FA 255 JSSA L4P1. Correct.
Because this floor amendment is not showing, it doesn't encompass what that floor amendment is.
Basically, Madam Speaker and my colleagues, is to have everybody participate under one group. That's what this amendment is for.
One moment, Senator San Augustine. Clerk. Right, Senator San Augustine, I just want to refresh everybody's memory because I do know that with this amendment, it includes with one or more, and if I'm not mistaken, that provision was stricken. Am I right?
No, if you look on the amendment, Madam Speaker, it was very specific to page 1. Let me go back to the bill, and I'll cite the bill.
Senator Joe, I'm going to take a moment's recess to
Yeah, no,
confer
yeah,
with
but
clerks.
Yeah, I know, but I
The legislature's back from recess. Colleagues, it has been reloaded on the amendment. So it's on the same file. Senator San Augustine, you can speak on the amendment.
Madam Speaker, it's been reloaded?
Yes.
FA 255 JSSA L4 P1 re-uploaded? Stand by.
Senator Joe, on the amendment.
Back to the same amendment, in addition to the making it more current, the documents. Do you want me to read again the same thing I already read? Okay.
If my colleagues understand, we are on the same amendment showing the strike-through on the amendment as proffered by Senator Joe San Augustine. Does anybody wish to speak on it? If not, are there any objections? Senator Torres, thank you. I apologize. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this amendment. First of all, we have not consulted with the judiciary, if I'm not mistaken, about this proposed amendment. It was also mentioned by one of our colleagues a day or two ago that the judiciary has in fact opted out of the GovGuam insurance plan and procured insurance on their own, separate from us, from the GovGuam plan, for the past 2 years. But what I want to mention is while there seems to be this presumption that including the judiciary into the GovGuam plan will somehow affect the pool and result in a better negotiated contract price because there are added participants, the number of employees at the judiciary is only about 300, a drop in the bucket when you consider that there are, I believe, 26,000 subscribers in the GovGuam plan. So it's not going to make a difference. But I tell you where the difference will be made. If you consider that the judiciary for the past 2 years, they have conducted their own analysis of what it's cost for them, a comparison of being on the GovGuam plan or being on a separate contract independent of the GovGuam plan. And just for fiscal year 2020 alone, just fiscal year 2020, they're realizing a savings of $120,000 plus a lower deductible. We have to keep in mind that whatever savings the judiciary is able to realize has a corresponding benefit to the GovGuam in terms of efficient use of monies and application of savings to other critical areas in the government that the judiciary serves. So the idea that we are going to mandate them to come in without their input. B, mandate them to come in, notwithstanding the fact that they have realized savings on their own, I think is just an injustice. Third, to mandate that they come in with the presumption that they are going to benefit the price, the contract price, by being a part of the pool, that cannot be relied on. So I would object wholeheartedly to this. I think that, out of respect to our third co-equal branch of government, the least we could do is get their input. And I believe that they could very adequately provide us, upon request, an analysis that they've done over the last three fiscal years of what the cost of insurance for the judiciary, independent from the GovGuam plan, means, not only to the judiciary employees, but overall to the budget of the judiciary, the cost-saving benefit. So with that, I think we have to be a little more considerate, not so much because we want them to do whatever they please, but because whatever they decide to do, if it has a benefit not only to their employees, but is a benefit in cost savings, which has a corresponding benefit to GovGuam overall, has to be taken into consideration. And we have to give them that benefit of making that choice for themselves. But to just mandate them when we know it's only going to result in more money for them to pay towards insurance and more money, actually, and probably less benefits to their employees, is not right. So the bigger question is, how do we cut costs? And I think that the law right now tells us how we can cut costs. It says you shall find the most efficient, economical, and most beneficial plan. And that's in the law right now. And to just create all these little fringes around that very concept that's already in the law is a little wonky right now. But I would object to mandating that the judiciary be included in the plan without their input and without consideration to the cost savings that they have in fact realized. Fiscal year 2020 is one example of $120,000 in savings, and I believe in prior years it was even more. So with that, I respectfully
Thank you,
Object.
Senator Tars. I had Senator Therese Terlahi, then Minority Leader. Senator Therese.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to make a motion that I received a correspondence during lunch from the judiciary, and if I could just read it on the record. I forwarded it by WhatsApp to the senators, but I'd like to make a motion that this be added to the record on Bill 255, so I'm just going to read it, and I will send it to the clerks with the attachment. It says, good morning, Senator Terlahi. Attached below is an analysis that the Judiciary of Guam, hereinafter Judiciary, has prepared to illustrate the considerable savings that is realized by the judiciary procuring their own health care insurance. The analysis has been conducted for the past 3 fiscal years. As to FY 2020, the judiciary should realize a savings of almost $120,000. As you can see from the analysis below, the judiciary's plan is less expensive with a lower deductible than the current government of Guam plan. Should you have any questions or require further dialogue on this matter, I am available at any time. And so then they attach an analysis. And I think where we are right now, Madam Speaker, with this amendment is that the theory that we were given by Department of Administration is a generally correct theory, that the bigger your pool is supposed to result in savings. We haven't given them the opportunity to tell us specifically regarding the judiciary what would be the impact on them, or would it have an impact on GovGuam savings? And I would like to know that information from the Department of Administration, who they have actuarials that they hired, they contract with, who could really perhaps give us this type of information. So I think we should leave the judiciary alone, of course, for FY21. I mean, yes, that they have already negotiated, or they are currently negotiating, and we are currently negotiating without them. And but for 2022, I'm hoping that that analysis can be done, and that we can, not just act blindly, and that we can act with all the facts in front of us, Madam Speaker. Wait, if you could just hold on one sec. Yes, so I don't think that the judiciary is able to estimate today what the difference in price is going to be for FY21, which is what everybody's currently in the process of negotiating. And I think it's very possible that, the facts might change for this fiscal year that we're negotiating right now. And I would like to see that, or get an analysis, at least by DOA, so we see both sides. Because if it will result, if pooling the judiciary will indeed result in savings for everyone, including the judiciary, then I say, by all means, we should do that. Yeah, so they're showing that for past years, it has not been cost effective for them. But, Madam Speaker, if we separate every entity and let them do their own bidding, I'm pretty sure that, the judiciary doesn't cover retirees, and if all the other entities aren't going to cover retirees, of course, who's ever left in the government of Guam pool is going to be covering retirees. So all I'm saying is, I don't think we have we have an analysis from the judiciary for the past, but for the current year, and we don't have that, and we don't have that going forward. So I guess I'm at a loss of what we're going to do with this amendment, but I'm going to think about it. But that's the issue for me, is we don't have all the data.
Thank you, Senator Schley. Senator Joe, do you have a point of information? This is your amendment.
No, I have not only a point of information, Madam Speaker, but I actually invite that if this body wants that we call the Committee of the Whole, that the court shows up and brings their numbers. The Office of Finance and Budget will bring their numbers, because the last information I got from them, it's costing more to cover the folks at the court than it covers any other GovCom employees. So I'm just going to ask that we have the Committee of the Whole, and that we bring the numbers. Show the numbers. Don't just send it through the phone and transmit it. Come here, speak about it, present it, and let's have an honest debate about it. Because if they're doing something that is saving the government of Guam, then let it be across the board, that everybody saves, not just the courts.
Motion for.
Thank you.
Senator San Augustine, as the proffer of this amendment, I'm going to ask you to, if this is a motion to call for the Committee of the Whole and bring the judiciary in, I ask you that you properly proffer that right now at this time.
Then I ask that we go to the Committee of the Whole, and that the following folks be called to this hearing.
Can
And that,
can I also just share one point of information?
state your point of information, Senator Marsh.
Sujus Masi, Madam Chair. When Mr. Byrne was here, I had asked him specifically whether it was more cost effective to have the handful of others like Gita, and he had specifically responded that the numbers from the judiciary may not make a whole lot of difference in cost. So according to his analysis, as somebody who's been on the negotiating team numerous times, he had said from his perspective that the additional 300 or 400, he estimated it at 400, but he didn't assess it as making a whole lot of difference in cost. So I just wanted people to remember what he had shared with us in his testimony.
Thank you, Senator Marsh. Senator San Augustine, on the proffering of the motion for Committee of the Whole, please restate it properly.
I'm calling for the Committee of the Whole, Madam Speaker.
And to bring in,
And we bring in the court, OFB, and DOA.
on that
Thank you.
motion, are there any objections? There is a motion on the floor. Is there an objection? There is an objection. It is not debatable. All those to have a committee of the whole to bring the court in, Department of Administration back, and OFP, please signify by raising your hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Motion carries. We will take a moment's recess. 35th Guam Legislature is back from recess. Senator Lee, we're waiting for the courts to come down. DOE will be here at 6. Can we motion to recess till 6 p.m., please? Assistant Majority Leader, motion to recess till 6, please.
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker. I motion that we go into recess and return at 6 p.m.
On that motion, we are in at 6 p.m.